Okay, so number 7, week 7 of the Intro to Game Art class. I wanted to kind of share with everybody the introduction to, more of an introduction to polygroups and what they're for and the advantages you're going to have with them. Before, I want to also, we talked a little bit about making UV maps. So I want to talk about how to create the polygroups, but also how to use them for UV maps as well. But I also want to bring to your attention something we did not cover before. And I'm going to go to my Z plugin here. Let's go ahead and cascade up my tools. Go to my Z plugin. I'm going to go ahead and grab the Z plugin and just drag it on over here to the side. Okay, Z plugin. I'm going to my UV master here. So I want to share something with you that I didn't really touch on last time, which was utilizing ambient occlusion for as part of your UV map technique. Okay, we use UV master. We used to if I hit enable control painting, we talked about how to protect and how to attract, right? Actually manually pinning on the areas on the dog where you want to protect and where you want to attract. But you can also utilize the shading on the dog. So if you look at the dog, look at where the shading is being placed. In other words, ambient occlusion. Ambient is basically your ambient light. It's bounced light. On top of the dog is your direct exposure or exposure to your direct sunlight. On the bottom of the dog, it's going to represent bounced light. That's why it's going to be shaded. Okay. So in other words, that's where ambient light is going to be is happening. Thus the name ambient occlusion. Right. So we're going to use these ambient areas as the place to attract your seams for your dog. Okay. So with enable control painting on, and I'm going to also target ambient occlusion, immediately, look what it did. So it applied the areas where you attract. You can see the attract button is highlighted. That's going to be in blue. So all the areas, other areas of the dog is going to be the areas which you're going to protect. So I don't really need to draw red paint here. So I'm going to see what it looks like without me having to do all that. So I'm going to avoid to protect right now. And what I'm going to do is going to hit unwrap. And then I'm going to come right over here and what do I do next? Flatten. Right. So hit flatten and there it is. Yeah. Using ambient occlusion. So on your models, you might want to consider trying that first. Okay. Otherwise, but you needed to know how to manually do it. How to manually decide where you want areas you want to protect, what areas you want to attract. Because you may want to customize exactly how your UV image is going to be laid out, or UV map is going to be laid out. Here, the program is doing it all for you. All right.
Why do we want to do that?
So what was that?
Why do we want to flatten out the image to it?
Okay. Well, the question is why do we want to flatten out this image like this? Can anybody answer that?
To properly lay out UVs.
Right, to properly lay out your UV. So we're taking you. This is a way of extracting your 3D from the 3D world and putting it into the 2D world. 2D world is what program? Photoshop. So if you want to use Photoshop to draw and paint your textures, or use Photoshop to place fur textures onto the animal, it needs to be in a 2-dimensional world. Okay. You remember back in the earlier days of gaming, all texture is done in 2D. All right, you're limited to so many. You're limited to a dimension of 256 by 256 square. And back in the day, you did not have 3D painting programs. So everything had to be done inside Photoshop. Okay. Right? And that's still the rule of today. But today it's a blend of Photoshop and a blend of 3D painting. You have other programs like Substance Painter, which Adobe just purchased, which is absolutely fabulous. And that's something I'm gonna we as a student and instructors, you can download that free. Okay, and Adobe, yeah, go to Adobe site. You can download. Now that'll take you to the site where Substance Painter is held, and you can download that free. I think it's like a 1-year free license, whereas Maya is a 3-year free license for education. Okay, so if I come back, I'm going to unflatten it, and there we go. Okay, there's our dog. Now, don't forget. Now, there's something I forgot to do, and I'm going to I'll just come right up in here. Is when you create your painting, you want to work on the clone always. So you want to work on the clone of the dog, not on the original dog. So I should have hit work on clone, and that would have duplicated another dog. And you know it's a clone because when you go up here to your subtools, let's go to tools, you'll see in your subtools it says CL dog. That stands for clone. So it's a clone of your dog. All right, so here's another approach as well. I'm going to go get another image here. I'm going to go grab, not live booleans, go to my light box, and how about if we grab something like, let's grab this. I would grab her. You'll notice that she's got 2 subtools here. All right, so we got her head and we've got her eyeballs. Now, if you want to separate the two very quickly, a quick little shortcut on your keyboard is Shift X. Are we watching? Yep. Shift X. Watching that there? Yeah, it's cool. Shift X again brings it back together. All right, if I bring in another example, let's get this guy here.
What is that useful for?
It's called expose or expose. Expose, probably expose. That's just to see what you've got in there. So here's all of your subtools here. And if I want to show how many at one time, I can put a little slide. So I've got like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 subtools here. And you want to kind of quickly share with your client, you know, all of the assets for this guy. Shift, there you go. All right. And just bring that on back. And there are your assets all lined up in the plane. All right. Shift X brings it back together. You can see here, you know, all of these, you know, look at all these different subtools. There's my man, there's the jacket. We're going to get into creating clothing for your character, and it's a lot easier than you think. Okay, all right. I like to mess around with the magnifier for educational purposes, but it says Shift M on your keyboard, and your cursor becomes a magnifying glass. All right. So if Shift M. If you have a small laptop, you know, the text is really tiny on there. That's that's really handy. Okay, so let's go into kind of sharing with you guys. I'm going to go to my light box again and go grab Dynamesh. Okay, Dynamesh sphere. All right, let's talk about polygroups, and then we're going to talk about Dynamesh. Okay, so polygroups are pretty simple. If I hit Shift F, we can see we have one single polygroup. What if I want more? Right? Hit Shift F again. Right? Let's use my masking tool to create a brand new polygroup. Right? So hold the Control key down, click and drag it right on this little corner, and I've got both sides selected. I don't want to do that. I want to go back on that one. Let's hit my X key to go to so I don't have my mirror on. Hit my Control and select this little area there. Okay, so that mask is selecting that little edge of the ball. I want to make that its own polygroup. Anybody know the shortcut to this? Okay. Control W. Shift F. We got another polygroup. Okay. Let's make another polygroup. Let's come right over here. Control. Let's grab this little area there. What's the shortcut for making a polygroup? Control W. Okay. So if I want to draw something on here, let's say, let's make this little big bar a little bit smaller. Let's go. Oops, I don't want to paint that. I want to mask paint this out. Make that its own little group by itself. Command W. Okay, real simple. Now, why are polygroups important? Because oftentimes your model is going to get sophisticated, and you're going to want to hide everything else and just work on one part of the model. I'll give you a practical application in a little bit, but if I want to select one polygroup over the other, and I just want to manipulate that, how about this this yellow group here? Control Shift held down together, tap on the group, the rest go away. Control Shift held down together, tap on the outside, the rest come back. So I can select this here, tap on it, come over here without the other stuff being in the way, and I can just use my standard. I can use my standard brush, right? Do what you want with it. I'm going to hit Control, drag it, okay? And you can work on it normally. Now, let's see what's going on here. Let's how about if I have my top button selected for my space bar. Oh, actually, that should work. There it is. And I can control my intensity, my shift, everything. Okay. I'm going to hit Command Shift again. Bring it over to the side. Now, what I forgot to do. Okay. All right. So nothing's happening because I wasn't paying attention. Z add right there. Okay. Command Shift, click on this one here. Let's go ahead and bring this up closer, actually. Okay. And go ahead and manipulate this particular shape. So this could be your face you want to alter, but you don't want to touch anything else behind it, or you just don't want to see anything else in the way. All right. Command or Control held down, Shift brings back the other stuff. If I want to select the other side, do the same thing. Command or Control Shift, that hides that one there. F key, bring it to full view. Okay. And we can edit this accordingly. All right. So I want to add some more manipulation to this. How about if I want to add a little bit more polygroups to this. So I'll come over here. I'm going to alter my brush, nature of my brush. Go to my Shift. And oops. There we go. Bring it in closer. Let's bring it smaller. Control. I'm going to go over that yellow, making it kind of a big little square. All right. Command or Control W. See, it makes it its own little polygroup. All right. Now, how do I manipulate these polygroups? What if I want to merge them together? I want to, alter them in other ways. Well, that's going to be under your geometry menu. So we'll come on down here. Here's geometry. And as I come down to kind of close this one up here for Z plugins, and I want polygroups. Okay. Right there. Okay. All right. And we've got options in here. Group front, group visible, group by normals, group by edges, group masked, group marked clear mask, all types of options. So for example, if I want to do group visible, so say I want the green and this purple to the left to be held together. Now we already know if we do Control Shift on any of these, right, I can hide them. But if I place it in between two groups, I can select only those two groups alone. Well, I want these two groups to be merged together. Well, better yet, let's do it this way. I'm gonna hit Command Shift. Let's do the two middle groups in the center here. I'm going to go select this one. Actually, select this again. Put it in between these two groups. Let's see if I can. There they are. Now I've got them all selected. So I want this whole thing to be merged as one poly group. Over on the right-hand side, I'm going to target Merge Visible. And when I click it, there, one group. And if I hit Shift Control, now, so that's ways you can manage your groups once you have them. Does that make sense? All right. So, okay, we've got groups. We know we can show and we can hide them. We know we can show one, hide the rest, and actually just work on that one group. Well, can I alter this group into what, a UV?
I would think so.
Right. So what's this going to start striking your imagination that now I can totally control my UVs. I can make my groups any shape that I want and then tell the program to create my UVs based on what I created. Okay, so how about this? I'm going to split one of these up a little bit here. I'm going to my Shift, go to my Control key and just make a little square right in here just to make it a little easier for the program to divide these up. And Control W. There we go. Okay. So if I come back down and we're going to go to Z plugin and we're going to go to the UV Master. And right next to Symmetry, we have Polygroups. And if I click Polygroups, maybe what I can do next is unwrap it and then flatten it out. Boom, there it is. So in ZBrush, if you want the ultimate control, you can organize everything as polygroups. And not only can you control the texturing, but you can also control your UV mapping.
Would you say it's easier to do custom UV maps in ZBrush than in Maya?
So the question is it easier to do UV brushing in ZBrush or UVs in ZBrush than in Maya? They're different. I really like the UV controls in ZBrush, but I find Maya to also be easy too. No program gives you complete ultimate control of the UVs because the program is applying algorithms to flatten out your UVs out to allow you to paint the most effective as you can, so that you have an even even surface to allow you to apply your textures to. I like them both, to be quite honest. I really fell in love with UVs with ZBrush because you can just brush in where you want it to happen, and it just happens. All right. So I enjoy both. I don't really find one easier than the other. I find Maya to be more sophisticated with a little more complicated with UVs than ZBrush, but they both do a good job. All right, so I figured that will be kind of handy for you when you guys start creating UVs, and you can decide where you want to apply UVs. Now, you can create your UVs in Maya, bring it over to ZBrush, which I'm going to go over next. So there is all right, so let's go back, and I'm going to unflatten that. Okay, there we go. Now it's all back to my one shape. So let me now, before I go further, let me actually go here and look at a practical application. I'm going to use this head here. All right, now the head has one single set of UVs. So how would you want to split this up?
Probably mask it.
Yeah, probably mask it. In fact, I tell you what, why don't you guys open up this UV head? It's going to be in your light box. It'll be under projects, and it's called Demo Head ZPR. Open that up, and we can get a little bit of a hands-on experience with this. Back to this. Okay, now let me share with you. I'm going to go to an easier model. Now, ZBrush needs to know, if you want to work between ZBrush and Maya, ZBrush needs to know that Maya is there for it to integrate with, for it to share with. And the way you tell it is under GoZ plugin, okay? Under plugin, under tools, well, it's in Z script. Well, it's on tools. It's right up here under tools, right there. But there's another one. Let's just clear this out real quick. I want to work with a new model. Let's go to Lightbox. Let's just get a regular sphere. Okay, there we go. Let's go over to Maya real quick. Let's clear that out. There we are. And how about if let's see, why don't I just go over here and just go to a new scene. Okay, don't save it. Okay, I've got a new scene here. Now, in Maya, you'll notice that I have a GoZ tab here. Now, I don't know if you guys have that GoZ tab. I'm assuming you don't. Right. Okay, so you don't have it. That's because ZBrush needs to put that plugin into the Maya architecture so that when Maya boots up, it's going to see the plugin, put the tab here, and when I click on that tab, you see right there it's a GoZ symbol. Okay, so that means I can transfer any object into Maya from ZBrush or vice versa. So if I'm going to go back here to ZBrush, and right over here under the tool, I've got GoZ. When I click on GoZ, now when you click on it, it's going to say, hey, I don't see anything. I need you to associate a program that's installed in your system. All right. If you click on next, actually, you guys do that right now. It's going to ask you what programs are installed in your system. You'll see Photoshop. You'll tell it to use Photoshop. You'll tell it to use Maya. You'll tell it to use, I'm not sure if Mudbox is an option, but you need to tell it to use it or tell it to go get the executable file for those programs so that it knows where to store its plugins. I'm going to pause recording it to assist you. All right, resume. Here we go. If these computers in the classroom will not allow us to integrate because we don't have the administrator's username and password. So the way to work around this is you export your object here on the tools. Right down here, by default, it's giving you OBJ. Save that, and it's also giving you other formats, right? But you got Cinema 4D as one. You've got Web 3D, Maya. You can save this as a Maya file. You're welcome to do that as well. But OBJ is basically considered the JPEG for the 3D world. Save that to somewhere in your drive. Go into Maya, import it into Maya, bring it on into Maya, and keep working on it. Okay. I will contact the dean to see if we can get the two softwares connected so you guys can work. But normally the way it works, if you're watching me, is if I make a modification, any type of modification, okay. I gotta go in here and make some changes. Go right over here. Let's go to my focal shift. Oops. Go over here. There we go. All right. make some modifications to this. All right, and when I go to Go Z, go into Maya, and there it is.
Well, the other way.
Hmm?
The other way, are we just opening a file through?
It's the plugin is loading into Maya. Maya sees everything that ZBrush does. Whatever you do in the ZBrush will automatically show up right here. All of this is pushing and pulling geometry. Remember the tools that you have up here, the not the poly model, but the sculpting tools, right? So if I come over to here and start, oops, I've got my brush too. If I kind of do a pull, that's not the pull that I want. Oh, here, I'll just modify it this way. Then when I go to my, let's go back to my modeling tool, and if I look for my Go Z tab and click on Go Z, see, automatically updates. So they're both 3D programs. All 3D programs do the same thing. They're just simply pushing and pulling points. That's all they're doing. Yeah.
Question: if you've already completed your model and you're doing the polypaint for the texture in ZBrush,
Yeah.
can you go Z back to Maya and carry the polypainted textures into Maya?
Okay, so the question is can you carry the polypaint into Maya? You export the polypaint textures as a formatted file.
I see. Okay.
Once you do that,
And we'll get into that later, because I want to get into Spotlight and as well. All right, I think I've covered everything I want to do for lecture. I want to let you guys use the rest of the time to do your homework assignment, which will be due next Friday. So you built a sword with a scabbard. I want every aspect of that sword and scabbard modeled. So the hinges, the blade hilt, everything we modeled. The ribbons on the scabbard modeled, detailed. So whatever the photograph shows, I want you to represent. Now, photograph's important. You need to have that photograph as part of your requirement. So I can inspect it and say, oh, wow, you really represented those rivets. You represented that, these connections for the blades. Then what I like you to do is to model two hands, like it could be your hands or somebody else's, your choice. Use a reference, and as if the two hands are holding the blade. So once you create the sword in Maya, you go into ZBrush, create your hands in ZBrush, export that out as an OBJ, and bring it back into Maya, and then line them up in Maya. So now you're going to be working with two programs at one time for this assignment, and you have to learn how to integrate them. Cool. I know what I wanted to cover. This is something that'll help you. Hold on a second. Let me bring back the... Oh, good. Okay, here's something I think is going to be really handy. It's called Dynamesh. Now, before, let me go to my snake brush tool. Usually, this is usually a good tool to kind of show this technique with. And I'm going to actually just pull out that geometry like so. Now, in the past, the way you would handle this mesh getting all crimpled up like this was to use Z-remesher to kind of retopologize your geometry here. Okay, so if I go over, and all that is listed under the geometry tab. We go down to the bottom of the geometry tab, and if I go to Z-remesher, I can target the poly count that I want to favor. I'm going to keep it low for right now. I'm going to hit Z-remesher. You can see my progress bar, and you can see how it reorganized the mesh, right? Now I'm going to do is I'm going to hit, it's taking the mesh, reorganizing it, but I'm going to go back to where we were. And this time we're going to use what's called, let's go ahead and cast that up there. Instead of Z-remesh, we're going to use what's called Dynamesh. Dynamesh is highlighted. Okay. Once it's highlighted, you're ready to go. Now, the way it works is that it's going to add more geometry to this. All right. So if this is really peaky in here because it lacks geometry, it's taking one single polygon and extending it out. And what we need is a lot more polys in here. So with Dynamesh selected, and of course we can go to the resolution. We can make it higher, which means you're adding a lot more polygons, or I can keep it down at a reasonable rate, somewhere right about here. Now the way it works is you hold the control key and you click and drag and you release it, and it's added more polys. That's why this thing went dark. Okay, so if I get in close, see that? A lot more. So I had too high of a resolution. If I go undo, let's go down to something like 100. Let's say 104. All right. Click and drag it. See? So it's adding more poly. Which now, what does that mean for you? That means I can come in here. Let's go ahead. What was that? Yeah, smooth it out and sculpt it. I can smooth it out more. All right, or I can continue to sculpt it. Sculpt more shapes out of this. Start making more trees. Kind of like, oh, now all those are starting to distort, right? We're fine. Z remesh. Just drag again. Automatically does it. Sculpt, drag again. Sculpt, drag again. Isn't that cool? Isn't that amazing? ZBrush is a really amazing program. I'm going to make more tentacles. It's going to be like kind of like an alien attack worm or something. And drag, see? Adding more in there. So you're adding more geometry so that you can continue to sculpt effectively. And even with this, say you've got pretty close to where you want to be with this sculpt, we can go back over to Z-remesher to reorganize the polys, right? It hits Z-remesher. It's going to take a little longer because there's a lot more polygons to actually contend with now. And there we go. Look what it did. It reorganized it with as few polygons as possible. All right? And if we got it to this point, what you can do now, hit Command D to subdivide. All right? So you can use them interchangeably. Okay, see. Now, what else can we do with Z-remesher? So with Z-remesher, well, not Z-remesher, but with let's go over here and with Dynamesh. All right, I want to insert some tools in here. I want to insert some shapes. Let's I'm gonna hit the W key. Let's rotate this guy. Oops, I'm flattening it out. It's not what I want to do. I wanted to rotate it around. There we go. Okay. I'll bring it back up to here. Rotate it around. Hit the F key. Bring it back just a little bit. Okay. Now, I want to add more shapes on top of this thing. Now, hitting the W key gives you your transform tool. If I come back over to here and grab a brush, the brush I'm going to select is called an insert brush. I can insert geometry in here. So if I hit the I key, let's see, what can I insert? Let's see, let's grab some spheres. Here's some primitives here. I can grab this, and up here I can choose the thing that I want to insert. Some rectangles, some spheres. How about if I grab that there? Okay, insert sphere, and if I click and drag on the object, Oops, I got to go to the proper. Let's get out of this. There we go. Oops. All right. Hit the I key. All right. Let's go get my insert brush. I will get primitives here. And what I should be doing, let's get out of that. Okay. All right. So I've got multiple subdivision levels in there, which that's correct. So I'm going to have to freeze that. So what do? How do we freeze it, guys?
In geometry.
Yeah, that's right. Delete lower. It's done. So go grab my, let's see, maybe we'll grab this one here. Click and drag. I've got 2 of them. I'm going to undo that real quick and hit the X key because I only want 1. So click and drag this. Do that again. I want to kind of get it right to there. All right. Now, what it's doing, this is a tessellated sphere. In fact, I prefer not to use it. I'm going to go grab one of these over here. Get one of those. There we go. Like a nice big sphere like so. That'll work. So everything becomes masked off except for that sphere. If I hit a W key, I can move that sphere around. Okay. So I'm going to bring it on down. Let's bring it on over. And we're going to say this is going to be a head of an alien or something of sorts. Okay. Now, hit the F key, bring it on over. So, at this point, I can come over and let's go grab, maybe we'll do a move tool. Let's do move topological, something like right here. Make my brush a little bit bigger. Like so, and I can kind of move things around. Maybe we'll kind of, yeah, chin of some sort, or take the head and do something odd for that. Push these on in here. And you notice the 2 tools are completely separated. Okay, so I'm not affecting this one because I have a mask. Well, if we come down and go back to Dynamesh here, it's turned on, right? If we also want you to take note that we have the tool under the subtool. Look at the subtool. The both are joined together in one subtool. Just take note of that. That way, this tells you that you're moving in the right direction. If I come back down, go back to my geometry, Dynamesh is still highlighted. Control, drag it, release. Now it's meshed together. Okay, so we can go over to something like, let's go to my clay brush, clay buildup brush there. And start, see? I can start sculpting it. So Shift F to get rid of it. I can start sculpting in there.
So those being the same tool?
It's all the same tool now.
And now it's just different polygroups?
Not just different polygroups. Okay. Remember, we can change the polygroup, right?
Right.
So if I go over to polygroups, let's go find it real quick. It's in here, up a little bit. There we go. It's in front of me. All right, and I can say group masked or what? Maybe group them all together, group visible. All right, so group visible, boom, all done. All right, and again, we can use, there it is. I just did it again, and it's just changed everything into a high-res mesh using Dynamesh.
And so now the stuff that we added in is going to have the same poly count as what was already.
Yep, it's right there in front of you. Take a look. It's all right there in front of you. It's all the same poly count.
Cool.
So what else can we do to this? Look at this. Check this out. I want to add body parts to this, right? All right. So if I come over here to my brush, or I can just hit the B key, by the way, right? Hit the B key for the brush. And then I'm going to hit the I for insert brush. And then over here, I'm going to have tunes. I got body parts. If I click body parts, look what I've got. I've got a nose. Click on the nose. All right. Put the nose right there. And go to the W. Adjust it. All right. What do I do next? Control drag it. Control drag again. Boom. Meshes it together. All right, and then if you want to go to your, I gotta go find my polygroup. If you want, you can keep them as separate groups, or you can I can group visible, and there it is, all one group. Okay, I'm gonna bring it closer, and go to my clay buildup brush, any brush at that point. So clay buildup here, and then I'm going to just go ahead and bring the size down. Shift, bring this down here. My shift commands. If I go to shift, my intensity is pretty high there. Right? See, it just blends it all together. Shift key smooths it out. Is that making sense? So this might help you a little bit, and with your hand and all. So this is getting awfully kind of bizarre. But the whole idea is just to throw things together. If I go on my insert brush, hit my I key for insert. Here's my body parts again. I've got arms. All right. Maybe I want the arm on the other side. Hit W. That's making it bigger, but let's bring it over to the other side. Bring it around. Bring it on over. Okay. Rotate it around. There we go. Let's kind of get it into place. Let's give it a little bit of a rotation like so. I want to get the shoulder in there just a little bit more. There we go. Okay. And then what do we do from here? Control drag, merges them together, keeping its original poly count. And then if you want to consolidate the poly count, second control drag, consolidates the entire poly count.
Why making the thing?
Huh?
Why making the thing?
Yeah, make it a thing. Yes, right. Very, very cool movie.
No, the first one. That's the best one.
Okay, someone brought up the question. The question was brought up that there is going to be an incompatibility between ZBrush as well with Maya, because Maya doesn't handle millions of polygons very, very well. So, for example, if you're doing your hand in ZBrush, you're dealing with a lot of polys in there, right? Then when you want to bring it back inside of Maya, everybody watching me here, if you want to bring it back into Maya, Maya will accept it, but it's going to choke up because there's a lot of points in there. So one way to handle it is use the plugin called Decimation Master. So that's going to be listed under your Zbrush Z plugin under Decimation Master. And the first thing you have to do is pre-process current, so it actually, calculates all the polys that you have there. So I'll click it. You see my progress bar, it goes pretty quickly. It looks at all the different polys that I have on this piece. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to decimate. So Z plugin, and I'm going to come right down here to decimate current. So decimation means it's going to start merging polys together to reduce the amount of polys that's going to be in this particular model. And it's going to use tessellation to assist. So tessellation is basically triangulation polys. You're no longer going to get rectangular polys. You're going to get triangles as well, so that it can best represent the shape that you originally created. So if I go to my Z plugin, Decimation Master, I've already pre-composed current. Now I'm going to decimate current. Click OK, and you see it reduced those polygons by quite a bit. So if I want to know what's in my original shape, I take my mouse over the tool, under the tool section, and right up here you can see the polygon count. Polys, and this one is 26,000, which is not a lot. Maya can handle that pretty easily. So another way you can handle it is create your hand inside of Maya, where you can control all your polys, bring it into ZBrush, where you can subdivide maybe once or twice so you don't get a whole lot of polys, and just do all your mesh moving there to create a good looking hand, and then take it back into Maya again. That's another way of doing it. There are other more advanced ways of utilizing normal mapping, but I don't want to get into that just yet. So Decimation Master, and it's an old plugin. It's been in ZBrush for a long time. You can control how it decimates. If I undo this, if I go back to the Z plugin, pre-process, I'm assuming that it didn't do it because I hit undo, and then I can control how many polys it's going to put in there, right? The percentage of decimation, I can increase that a little higher. The poly counts, I can increase those a little higher. Decimate current, and see it's still less polys, but a lot more detailed than the last one. And don't forget that if you create some really nice polygroups in here with your hands, you can use those polygroups to create your UVs, which Maya will see them easily. Okay. I should probably mention one other thing about UVs. One little gotcha. A little bit of a gotcha. If I take, let me just show you real fast. I'll just pick a head that I have in here. We'll grab this one here. I'll keep this one simple. So what I'll do is I'm going to go double check my subtool. There's only one subtool in there. I'm also going to make sure I'm going to go to if there's a subdivision levels, I'm going to go to my geometry. And I got 4 higher res. I guess that's all I've got on this one here. So then I will go over to my UV master, and let's go up here. I should have it down here at the bottom. Yep. Okay, so let me pull this on down. Z plugin. I don't want Decimation Master. I want to get UV Master. What I'll do with this one is keep in mind that you want to work on the clone. So up here is my original model. If I go to my subtool, I only have one layer. I like to duplicate the layers or the tools. So I'll go ahead and duplicate that tool. Now, I'm working on the one on the top. I'll turn off the one on the bottom just for ease. See visually. Then what I'm going to do here is when I go to my UV master, I want to work on the clone. Okay, so my enable control painting is on. Work on clone here. It's going to clone it, because what it's going to do is it's physically going to unwrap this geometry. I don't want that to be done to my original model. I want it done to the clone. So I can come over here and say use Ambient Occlusion. Unwrap it. All right. I'm going to unwrap it, and then I'm going to go ahead and flatten it. And something should happen. Ambient Occlusion is on. So why is it taking so long? It's a lot of polys. Normally, when you mold, you keep your different subdivision levels, so you can go down to the lowest subdivision level to apply your UV maps to that. Then it works really fast. Now I should be able to flatten that out. There. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, remember that sculpt has no detail on it. It's just a smooth looking face. So this is what we're getting. Now, once you have this, I'm going to unflatten it, right? Now, here's the catch. Watch this. This is important. Once you have the UVs, you copy those UVs, right? Because remember, we're working on the clone. We're not working on the actual model, right? So we copy those UVs. We go back up to the top, to the tool, go get the original tool, click on it, right? And then we're going to go paste UVs. Come down here. All right. And we're going to go to paste UVs, and then the UVs are there. Okay. And if you are in doubt, you come on up here to the UV map option, which is right in your tool section, or your geometry section actually. Let's see that UV map there. Select it. I wish it wouldn't jump on me like that. Now if I go to morph UV, there you go. Right? So morph UV is just showing you visually that there's your object, and do you have a UV? Yeah, if I click it, it morphs into that UV. Okay. On the UV map, it's an amazing program. So keep that in mind. Work on the clone, copy those UVs, go back to your original head, original object, paste those UVs. And so when you bring this into Maya, which we'll do right now, go Z, and there we go. Oops. Did it bring in as another object? There it is, right there. I'm going to take the polysphere, delete it. There we go. Okay. So we're in Maya. UV, editor. Okay, it should be there. There it is. Boom. Okay, it's all there. It works. So you got a UV map. It's got to tag the object.